Hello, welcome to Archaeosoup Towers on this Halloween week. Come in, sit down, make yourself comfortable, eh? Have a cup of blood. All of our guests sleep like the dead. You may be wondering why. Why on earth is Mr. Soup dressed up and celebrating Halloween? What's going on here? Halloween is an American festival, and Mr. Soup is decidedly British.
For many, Halloween is a quintessentially American celebration. It is a time when middle-class suburban streets are filled with children trick-or-treating. A carved pumpkin rests on every porch. Adults who aren't minding their trick-or-treating children dress up and attend all manner of fun parties. Friends indulge in organised ghost tours or exploring the local haunted house. People gather in the gloom to share spine-tingling stories around a campfire, or they settle in together to watch their favourite horror movie. Yes, many, for a time myself included, assume Halloween to be American in its origin, and very much a cultural invader in the UK.
However, despite the fact that Halloween is seen as very much an American festival, it probably has its roots here in the British Isles.
The word Halloween is a contraction of All Hallows Eve, a term first hinted at in Old English, Aira Haliena Maesedai. By 1556, the term had become All Hallows Eve, but the word Halloween is a contraction of that phrase that dates to around 1745 in Scotland. In the British Isles, as with so many other parts of the world, the introduction of Christianity meant merging old festivals with new ideas, often resulting in a curious tension between pagan and Christian elements. The Yule log is an excellent example where an ancient Germanic or Viking festival such as Yule is referenced in a Christmas treat. Similarly, over the years, Halloween has gained elements from both religious backgrounds. The tension is strong within this festival too. Halloween most likely has its roots in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, which comes from the Old Irish term for summer's end. We know that Samhain was an important festival in the medieval Gaelic calendar and was celebrated on or around the 31st of October. Similar festivals occurred at the same time of year in other parts of the Celtic world. For example, Calan Gaeaf in Wales, Calan Gaeaf in Cornwall, and similar in Brittany. These festivals marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, when things would get cold and dark. This was and still is a time when livestock would be gathered into their winter pasture, and decisions would be made about which animals to feed for the winter and which to slaughter. This was understood as a special time when the boundaries between this world and the other world thinned, allowing supernatural beings, spirits, and the souls of the dead to come through to our plane of existence. During Samhain, it was understood that these spirits needed to be placated to ensure survival through the winter, so food, drink, and other goodies were left outside for the spirits. Empty places were also kept by the fire in case the soul of a relative came for a visit. At this time, bonfires were lit throughout the landscape, guiding spirits about on their journeys, and it was believed that through playing certain games and rituals, you could more easily see your future, perhaps your future husband or wife. From around the 16th century, people began going from house to house, mumming or guising. This, as the name implies, involved dressing up or being in disguise, singing songs in return for food. It was understood that if one did not present food, bad luck would visit the house. It was believed that these people were imitating the spirits of old, lighting their way with lanterns made from turnips, shaped to look like spirits. The 19th and 20th centuries saw these customs spread across England too, with the so-called Celtic Revival, and characters such as Sir John Rhys declaring that Halloween had once been the Celtic New Year, a contentious assumption which unfortunately persists to this day.
Now, of course, over the years, other influences have in fact shaped Halloween.
What we now know of as Halloween, and indeed much of what has been written about its pagan origins, has been directly influenced by and seen through the lens of Christianity. Halloween is the evening before the Christian holy days of All Hallows Day on November the 1st and All Souls Day on November the 2nd. If you recall, this is the context in which we first met the term in Old English. All Saints' Day originated in the year AD 609 and was originally observed on the 13th of May. However, in the year 835, Pope Gregory IV insisted that it become a day of obligation, observed on the 1st of November, particularly in Northern Europe. Some suggest that this was to complement, or rather compete, with existing pagan festivals, though it has also been suggested that the change was made in order to limit the number of people coming to Rome at the height of the summer. Frankly, the city and the sewers couldn't take it. By the end of the 12th century, All Saints' Day was observed across Europe. Church bells would ring out for souls in purgatory, and criers dressed in black would wander the streets, calling for Christians to remember the poor souls. By the 15th century, children in particular would go from house to house collecting soul cakes. These cakes were offered in return for their prayers for anyone who had recently died within the house. This was a time when churches would display their saintly relics and encourage parishioners to dress as the saints. It's been suggested that this might be an origin for children dressing up in costumes today. So-called jack-o'-lanterns potentially represent the souls of the dead, and the ancient bonfires were appropriated as fires which guided souls onwards to heaven. With the Reformation under Henry VIII in England, such practices were deemed popish and polluted by paganism. Rather than the souls of the recently departed, these spirits became dangerous, actual evil wandering the earth. This philosophy accompanied an increased awareness and vigilance for witches and witchcraft. The unsuccessful Catholic gunpowder plot of 1605 saw Protestant England refocus Halloween traditions. The Halloween bonfire would now be used to burn effigies of the traitor Guy Fawkes. This was the beginning of a popular shift in focus in Britain away from Halloween and to bonfire night. As my poor dog can attest, at this time of year many people set off fireworks, lighting up the night sky.
Eventually, Halloween crossed the Atlantic and made its way to America.
For the most part, early Puritan colonials in America paid the popish Halloween no heed. But mass immigration from Irish and Scottish communities, driven in part by the potato famine in the 19th century, saw Halloween come to American shores, and by the 20th century, people of all communities and all religions at least acknowledged Halloween, with the first recorded instance of American guising, or trick-or-treating, occurring in Kingston, Ontario in 1911.
So there you have it. In many ways we've come full circle. Halloween has returned to British shores in a big way in the past couple of decades. And, I'm sat here in the dark, celebrating the ghoulish links between life and death, dressed in a funny costume. This is very much a British festival returned. In many ways, Halloween, and the festival celebrated at this time of year in Northern Europe, is older than the celebration of Christmas. But Today it is just as replete with the trappings of commercialism. The number of decorations, blinking lights, makeup and ghoulish treats I've come across in shops in the past couple of weeks really underscores that. But it's a very interesting thing. I, for a long time, assumed that Halloween was basically a recent commercial invention, a very American thing, especially trick-or-treating. But it turns out that it isn't. So hopefully you've learned just as much as I have, and hopefully this video has been interesting and informative for you. As ever guys, whatever you're doing this Halloween week, and indeed on Halloween itself, have a wonderfully ghoulish time. And until next time, do take care. Bye bye.